Blessings and welcome to Astrology with Agneta. Today I'm going to share the year of 2025. Where are we going? Reality versus illusion. It will be a very prominent year because major outer planets are trying to shift signs from one zodiac sign to the other. And it will become an important year. So we start now to take a deep breath and have hope, perhaps for the springtime of 2026. I will cover Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. I will talk about the moon's nodes, which are caused by eclipses. So we will cover 2025 for eclipses. Jupiter square Saturn, which was in a conjunction 20 years ago, and this year, 2025, it is in a square. Jupiter always want to move fast, and Saturn goes, no, not quite yet. We're also going to cover or look at the 36-year cycle of Saturn conjunct Neptune. However, Neptune is in an important return of 160 year in the United States chart. It is the Civil War, the last time that Neptune was in Aries, 1861 through 1865. So we also are in that process looking at Saturn as reality, maybe government and forceful energy coming through. And we're looking also at Neptune, that could be an illusion, but it's also promising of having faith and hope for the future. And I'm also going to cover Chiron, which is the very important little point about us to have faith. And I hope you will stay with me, and many, many blessings for the year of 2025. Thank you. We start to look at November of 2024. That was a huge change in the astrological community. And in general, ever since 2008, there has been this rumor that we are going into a new era. We are defining it as the Aquarian age. Pluto, which is a very small planet, asteroid, whatever you want to call it, was discovered in 1930. But it has become a very powerful force affecting the global and humanity overall. Pluto in 2025 will stay in the degree of Aquarius from 1 to 3 degrees during the whole year. His retrograde goes into that mid-October, so it's going to be, as you're going to see with the other outer planets, the back and forth. And so where are we going? Pluto typically rules taxes, manipulation, sex, and rape, secrets revealed, corruption, death, and he actually rules the underworld, Pluto. But he also governs of transformation, declaring there has to be a change for the birth, and always at the same minute, same second, a rebirth. So we look at again and again on my plate here, which is one of my favorite, the god and the goddess Pluto, and the maiden Persephone travels to the underworld. And there is that they are teaching each other how to survive. The grounds might be barren on the earth, so they have to figure out what to do. Now, there is a forceful energy from Pluto with maiden Persephone. She's actually forced to go to the underworld. They do teach each other how to survive. They bring their chickens, their little birds, maybe even eggs or whatever they have had for bringing it from the earth down to the dark side of our psyche. So Persephone has this hope, and she will be allowed by Pluto to return every springtime to her own mother, Ceres. Now, Ceres also happened to be close by in Aquarius. Throughout the year, she's not going to be Aquarius, and then it goes on Pisces, and then Aries. Point is, Ceres, the goddess, governs grain, crops, fertility, and motherly relations. That would be many concerns about the current forceful abortion of the maiden, even taking care of their vitality, their hope for the future. So we give Ceres the motherly instinct to have faith in Persephone's be able to come and join Earth, new beginnings. It's a hard year, but it's also for us to be even more patient. It's an interesting year, and that's what I wanted to share. Now, when we go into, I thought, how can I explain a very strong year by moving it into winter, spring, summer, fall, and again, winter solstice, and some eclipses that we will throw in. So when we look at number November, Aquarius then is really, Pluto is really in Aquarius. But we also have this little guy here, Mars, retrograded in Leo. Leo is fire, is strong. It's Leo is the leader. The point of energy could be overdone with people's reaction to anger, frustration, anger. There is an uncertainty because Pluto opposes this angle that will stay here, as we're going to see, up to April of 2025. So this little guy would rule Mars in the Mars of fights, agreement, war, and it does rule blood pressure. So for you who might have either Aries, Aquarius, Leo, Aquarius, then that would be something that we would take into account, that blood pressure, not getting so involved. We do need to be informed about the current situation that will occur in, especially the first 3-4 months of 2025. So the walks and the cold shower. So when we look at the first Mars opposition, November 3rd, 2024, what happens, everything change sometimes. All the planets want to peacefully travel on the ecliptic, but Mars is out of bound all the way to April 2. What that means is that out of bound is more like people will react more with the fire. It could be increased weather concerns and all those different aspects that comes with retrograde Mars every second year. On December 6th, Mars is retrograded. He moves into Leo, and that will cause another opposition in that process of Leo and Aquarius when Mars goes into Leo. Then when that process, it seems like a lot of dates. So we apologize, but it's also not apologize to sky. We can't control it at times. But it's more like when Mars enters Leo finally, because he goes into Cancer, and then it goes back and forth, if you will. So not until February 24th, Mars goes direct in Cancer, which is, by the way, the United States of America is a Cancer country. So in that process, we make sure we calm down in that process. When Mars enters Leo on April 19th, that could be a time frame either from November until April, because there's a final Mars-Pluto opposition on April 26th in Leo Aquarius. So we have then the energy from that, Scorpio and Taurus will also be affected, maybe all the zodiac sign. We also have January 13, 2025, the moon's nodes, which is changing from Aries Libra to Pisces Virgo. And that's an important part too, because the eclipses start to happen, which we will go through in the sign of Pisces Virgo. So we're going to go through them specifically, but just to know that is important because we move into kind of different energy already in January, and we see this Mars energy, a little crazy. When we go to springtime, March 20th, 2025, that's actually when we as astrologers celebrate the birth of our system. Venus and Mercury are retrograded at the same time at certain times. So March 2nd, Venus is retrograded in Aries. It goes back into Pisces March 28th. April 13 direct in Pisces again, to finally kind of go into Pisces and stay in Pisces. The Mercury too, as we know, always goes retrograde 3 or 4 times a year, and everybody who knows a little astrology can't communicate. It's a very good time, especially when in March 15, Mercury is retrograde in 9-degree Aries. Then he goes into Pisces, and that whole part of springtime is also Pisces Virgo energy. Gemini Sagittarius might want to be included if you have some points that you know about in that phase. So when it goes direct into points that we will also go into lunar and solar eclipses on March 14 and March 29th, and I will give you some more details about that. But when we look at this cluster of energies from that whole point of these are then Venus and Mercury in Aries, myself, that has been in the past, and we should always be selfish in an unselfish way in a challenging times. So taking care of ourselves so we might be able to help others would be a strong and beneficial mantra for all of humanity, because both Saturn, karmic node, which then has gone into Pisces, and then Neptune in Pisces, they will meet together, and we will cover that too. So this guy here, Chiron, is also in Aries, and that's a lot of the promising for that inner healing that we all kind of acquire or should pay more attention to. Is that right to say healer, heal thyself? Maybe we all have a healing point in ourselves. When we get to the summertime, which is June 20th, there is the summer solstice, when the sun changes direction, and never mind me being born in Sweden, in there, it gets dark. So we will be out and celebrate life. We have one planet that moves very fast, which is Jupiter. He travels fast, sometimes unpredictable because he's so great and larger than life at times. So he might overdo just a little bit of overeating and overspending. That's on June 10th that Jupiter enters Aquarius. He goes pretty much through the summer and into the fall until November 11th, when he goes retrograded into that whole process, which is why I really want to share this material to you, for us to realize it is a back and forth, not getting too far. Never mind what the government is trying to change or not change. We have to take care of ourselves even more. So when Jupiter on July 1st doesn't go direct into Leo, he is a back and forth in Cancer the whole year. And so on March 31st, Neptune enter Aries, because we're talking about summertime now, but that's like in between. May 25th, Saturn and Neptune conjunct, meaning they are on top of each other. And we see that with these two planets here. That's a 36-year cycle that I will talk a little bit more about the meaning of those two planets. Also, July 8th, Uranus, explosion, fire, unexpected things, unconventional things, goes into Gemini. When we see this 29 degrees, it's not quite yet. It tries to go into Gemini, but not totally. We will study that a little bit more. So the 36-year cycle of Saturn and Neptune is pretty strong. Last time it was 1988. You might want to look into that, and I'd rather look forward rather than back. I know history, but it's also what is important. It's important to be reminded that we have two sides of each coin as each side of the planet. What are we getting along in this process of a new beginning, a new era? I would definitely define it as a new age. So that, for example, I might have missed Pluto, will stay in Aquarius until 2044. So there is that big change as we speak in the beginning, especially in the beginning of 2025. So on March 31st, which means Neptune goes into Aries, goes retrograded on July 4th, and then October 23rd re-enter Pisces. And then direct within that time frame, they go back and forth, and then December 10th is in Pisces. So when does it go into Aries? As, for example, Neptune has been in Pisces since 2012. So we have this huge shift in outer planets, which is mass consciousness, but our individual self could have something in this area, especially 28, 29, 1 or 2, even 0, 1 or 2 degrees in the other sign. So Saturn also tries to move on. He stays in one sign for 2.5 years. And this phase he has been since 2023. That's but is a very important base of Saturn. He tries to go into Aries on May 25th, goes retrograde July 13th, back and forth September 2nd, back into Pisces, and then the Ingress, which is the final perfect ways of saying, then he's really into Aries February 20th, 2026. So you have this like waiting. Neptune is more like what is real, illusion, versus Saturn says, no, I am the strong one. And of course, Neptune doesn't, he is the water. He's pretty upset nowadays. And the whole part of no climate change, it's just the whole process of Neptunian energy is just, to me, very important as we looking at the new future. We're looking then at another planet, Uranus, which is also another planet, our outer planet, was in Aquarius since 2018. Taurus. It goes fast, a 7-year cycle. I'm sorry. Uranus, ruler of Aquarius, then back of my mind is also a traditional ruler of Capricorn, which is Saturn. But the visionary freedom of discovering a new planet in 1781, and is supposed to be close to United States of America birth chart, which according to science and research, still discovering millions of years before 1774. But that's the chart that we use at this point. But America has a very strong Pluto return. Remember that little guy, birth, rebirth? How was America born? And what are we doing now as this strong Plutonic energy has circulating around the chart of the 1776 natal chart? So therefore, 2025 is a very decisive year of revolution, or is it an evolution? The moment that this whole process goes on, since I said, Taurus, Uranus has been in Taurus, so that has been a lot of research. There is the science involved, the visionary for great big future, and the AI concept, which maybe I'm still a little confused about. But the LGBTQ plus community is very concerning, because how can we, myself including, change to something of freedom? Astrology rules astrology. So it's like, where do we go backwards when we are kind of threatened for big changes? Then we have to remember our own individual choices, lifestyles, desire for what is our vision. It is an alternative concept. So therefore, if we look at the world had changed, we can get accepted to go to therapists, to massage, and alternative healers. So it's a shift. It does rule electricity, but also freedom of independency. And we might think, because of fear of a change, that we don't have the freedom, but where does that belong? Inside you and I. So this 7-year cycle, it does rule. Uranus has in Taurus, it was more money awareness. Now it's more like taking care of that vision. Aquarius is a visionary. And so on July 8th, Uranus enters Gemini, re-enters Taurus in November of 2025 to final ingress into Gemini on April 27, 2026. What can that possibly mean? Uranus is like, I want to change. And that's the promise of the whole year. We don't get up to despair of these different attempts of the outer planets trying to move into a more unknown territory. We know the planets, what they represent. And therefore, I feel this whole year is continuing, allowing ourselves to perhaps be even more about who we have become. The other planetary combination of Jupiter, the guy that runs real fast, and Saturn says not the right time. They met in a beautiful conjunction in December 21, 2020. It was promising a big star. They call it a Christmas star, and it was great. But they're very different in personality. They are a 20-year cycle as a conjunction, but then in between they come into squares, which is what they're doing as I speak, as we are observing the sky. Why are they different in personality? One wants to move on now, because I just go in one sign for 1 year and watch me when I just do whatever I want to. And Saturn says, let's just talk about this. Let's just make it, because I am the boss, the father, the government, the controller, all those things that we don't necessarily want to, unless you and me are on an individual, small little lives are taken care of ourselves. Should there be an emergency? Have we taken care of ourselves? Can we move fast? Saturn says timing in this year is very important. Perhaps a little bit more patient. I mentioned earlier, Saturn has been there in the part of until since 2023, and will go in also in Aries, which is me. So May 25th, Saturn enters Aries. There's a cardinal sign, and that's very important in what we're trying to say. The cardinal sign is Aries, Taurus, around. So cardinal is always a new beginning. I'm in charge, and the cardinal signs are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. So you have an underlying shift in where those zodiac signs follows in your own chart. So when Saturn tries to move into Aries, stand up for basic human rights, whoever you want to protest, write to senators, or just make sure to take care of ourselves and not buying into the fear that every year is like, wow, it is a new year. What's going on? This is an important year. So on June 10th, Jupiter enters Cancers, who travels fast. And as I said, he's beneficial. I love him, but let's take it a little bit easier. When then June moved forward into the square, that if you have that kind of connotation of Libra Aries, that might affect your chart too. So Saturn puts the brakes on Jupiter, not that fast. We're going to like, who is the ruler of any country? This is not just America. We know the whole world is going through their big shift in not just governmental issues, but all the politics, humanitarian aspect as we look in. So then when Jupiter and Saturn does come into early degree, then that start a new era too, but we're not there totally in the beginning of 2025. When we look at the fall equinox of 2025, what are we looking at then? Let's just take a look at, do we find that have all those outer planets change? Yes, Pluto is in Aquarius. Doesn't oppose Mars again, except that there was a little square there. Okay. Another day for that. So we look at Saturn, went back to Pisces. Neptune is 0 degree, as in the fall, and then he has that little back and forth. Ceres, by the way, that I mentioned, is the savior, the mother, Earth mother, but the mother of survival instinct. She promises, like, we're learning different ways of agriculture, survival instinct, and the motherly care that we all desire. Uranus is in Gemini, but in this little R, 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 another R. They are retrograded. We know that we always want to move forward, but so often it goes, not quite yet. We need to really fall into ourselves and readjust into the current situation. How far have we got in the fall of 2025? Hopefully, we have started to understand that changes takes time. So that we have, and I will go into them, but there's nothing else here in the fall. That September 7th, there's a Pisces lunar eclipse. September 21st, a Virgo solar eclipse. And then that whole thing, which is actually quite interesting. When and if we look at what is a trine in astrology, we talk about the conjunction, which is two planets right on top of each other, but also Uranus creates a trine. We want everything to be perfect. We don't want those conjunctions. We don't want those squares, but they are the growth for what we deserve. So when Uranus, the freedom of change, start to trine each other, pretty much in the beginning of 2026, we might realize that some people have fear of a new change. It's about following your own personal change, how far you have come, how wiser we are in many ways. And now we are told, stop. It's too late. When we then go into the winter solstice, I pointed out there was I didn't want to put anything to action of all that because it's pretty much the same, except Neptune and Saturn are now in Pisces. Oh no, but they should be in Aries. Not quite yet. So when I have worked quite a bit with an anaretic degree, is a Persian symbol or number of in astrology, for you who might not know, many of you know, from 0 to 30 degrees. So that the 29, and if any of you have this 29, 28, but 29, then that person has more contained wisdom, has been more patient because it's 29 is not 0 or 1. And that's what we're going through now, to really be that part of patience, wisdom, who we have become this far, being just me and you, being in an alternative field for many years. And welcome newcomers to realize this is a good big year to be patient and introverted into who you have become. Never forget that. So when we then go in just a little bit, what I like to share, my specialty is eclipses, love them, because they are the intersection between the sun and the moon. Sun is strong and power. We all one zodiac sign. No, the moon comes in 2.5 days. And of course, before any type of full moon or new moon. Full moon, wow, we see it in a lot of beautiful pictures on the social media. The new moon is more introversion. So then when we have the eclipses, which is here, April 8th, 2024, that brought out millions of people, and it wakes up the energy between the sun and the moon. It's a mass consciousness, if that would be a way to put it. It's fun for the children. It's fun for family. It was very fun for me to drive way up north. And this is actually a picture I took. And there you have what's called the diamond. You can actually take off your your glasses. I'm not saying that you should, but for a second, you can actually take them off. And I took that picture. To the left, you see the moon's notes, understanding the dynamic ties that bind. Is my book that I have written about the eclipses. The mythological part in this book is quite interesting to look at, to read, not look, read it. So that when we go into the eclipses, we're looking at March, lunar eclipse on March 14, 2025. We find still there, we still go back into the cluster, stellium, Venus, as we mentioned, Venus and Mercury are in retrograde motion. Chiron too, we will talk about Chiron soon. But any type of eclipse, when we can see them, then they're also very prominent as in finding ways to kind of, because it's a lunar eclipse, we might be more aware. There's a total solar eclipse. We will get to them. So any kind of full moon is the 2-3 days before, during that time, and afterwards. So we might just March 14 not be ready for the silent and calm meditation, mass consciousness. But it is a good, Pisces, Virgo, whoever has Pisces, Virgo, or Gemini, Sagittarius, there is the cluster still of Saturn and Neptune teaches us about our dreams, Neptune, our dreams, not too much wine or alcohol or pot. That is just a way to escape so that we take responsibility for our daily lives, that we don't get into the confusion that Neptune might suggest at times. Saturn is more like the reality of it all. So you have two ways of looking at your life at that point. When we get into another one that I feel is very important for the last 19 months, March 29th, is a conclusion of what was the moon's nodes were in Aries Libra. And that's me and them. So we should never forget that for those who might have had some challenges or beneficial new jobs, and I'm braver than I ever was, that is the mantra for March 29th. I am who I am, and nothing will change that. We have at that point that we mentioned both continuously with Mercury and Venus retrograded. So that's a very strong. Solar eclipses are when the moon passes between the earth and the sun. So it's a withdrawal, it's a meditation, it's an opportunity to say, who have I become lately? And remind ourselves the individuality that somehow, even with despair in the world, we also, if you can listen to this, we might be better off than we thought with personal power. So this is the conclusion of the Aries Libra points that we will go into in that 2026 with Aries, the world axis about me. So the eclipses then also comes in September 7th, and they are then in the signs of Pisces and Virgo. We got a little Mercury, Virgo here pretty close. Virgo can be it's typical to details, which is great. We love those little reports. We love Virgo energy because it comes out like fulfillment. And now it is a full moon where we see them and see her in the moonlight. And with Mercury there, she might say, oh, I'm so worried. It's your stomach, the nerves, the way of communicating. And we still see in that eclipse, we see the 29 Pisces. Yes, Saturn. Neptune managed to go in to Aries. They retrograded. Uranus got into Gemini in the fall of 2025, but retrograded. Therefore, I'm saying whatever decision you try to make, by all means, don't stop yourself to make decision or changes. This is a very good timing in the eclipse pattern of spring or fall to set intentions and follow through with them. The extra call, the extra detail that you might have missed. The moon in Pisces with the Saturn, they're not strong conjunction, but they are in a conjunction because of the stellium. Then that's a good time to really reorganize and not let your mind, body, and spirit run too fast. So September 21, the eclipses following a lunar eclipse follow the solar eclipse. Now you have the sun and the moon at 29 degrees. And remember that anaretic point that is crucial to be patient. Anybody who has the Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, Sagittarius, and I think all zodiac signs are kind of involved this year, but let's not be stuck with that because these are the more strong, and we still see Uranus trining Pluto. So we have to count on some blessings for that new era, the new vision, the Aquarian age. So make sure the next 20 years won't be as harsh as it might seem in the beginning. Because that makes us go into Chiron. he is the wounded healer within all of us. The healer from Apollo taught him so many different things in the herbs. He liked astrology, the archery, the hunting, in that prophecy about being wise. He was a wild centaur, but he was different from them. In this picture, we actually see him with his Cancer cherry claw. They're close together at this point in the sky too, so that the Chiron invites healing during this time. And has been in Aries for a while, from 2018 and until April of 2026. So he has this like way of us be our own teacher. Alternative, like we looked at Aquarius, Uranus in Aquarius, will be then, Uranus is going into Gemini, which could be a little bit uncertain for a while, but it's also following, I could just imagine AI and the communication, and this big company takes over this company. So it's just, you just don't know, when on your own inner healing, that so much can occur wherever you might have Chiron in your own chart. So he was different from the other wild centaur because he was grounded being in a horse. And the horse are very interesting in the shamanic work, in our work about the power, the vision that Sagittarius does have, either half woman or half the man, with his wisdom coming through, and very strong in all those years. So we conclude this little segment, 2026 spring equinox, which is March 21st. So why is 25 a year of change? Where are we going? Where are you going? Where am I going? Well, we know that we might not know the outcome for 20 years, but we knew the crucial part, because all those outer planets are mass consciousness. Some individual charts will be affected if you have this degree and all the other stuff that comes with a Saturn cycle and all those different aspects that comes with any kind of change in our personal charts, life, or whatever that is. So then we kind of synthesize this. We had November 20, 2024 was very important. Now in the springtime, we do see Pluto 5 degrees in Aquarius during 2025, 1, 2, back and forth, and then 3, and then moving forward. Whoever has this in their chart. Sun could be in Aquarius, beginning of it, and we take that another time, but just in general. So June 10th, 2025, Jupiter did go into Cancer. January 2026, we have Neptune, 1 degree in Aries, stationed. February 15, 2026, we have then Saturn. They are conjunct. They are on top of each other. Are we running too fast? And then April 2026, this guy, because we're looking at March 21st, see this whole thing about the outer planets, he's still on this point in Taurus, he's this little guy. But at July 26, 2026, he does enter, I'm sorry, I mixed that up. I'm not going to do this so that it's just a lot of days, but Jupiter stays in Cancer, and he will go into Leo later on in the summer of 2026. But let me clarify this Uranus, because he will go into Gemini, and that will also follow a trine to Pluto. They will go, as it is with the outer planets, the retrograde motion, a little bit back and forth. The one Chiron, which is to me the one that is a little like healer, heal thyself, have a massage. Nurses might just take extra time out for themselves. Anybody in the healing field is welcome to check into Chiron's mythological part. It's beautiful all over the internet, but it does not go into Taurus until 2027, but it's in Aries in 2026 and has been in that since 2019. So there is still the, stellium of energy that comes through. But I would also like to say that throughout this time of where are we going, we're going somewhere. Some people are distraught and scared and all that comes with devastating results at times and beautiful results sometimes. Little babes are still born. So we have this life goes on, but in an awareness for those who have come into this time for purpose of being positive, meditating, being healthy, all those different aspects that comes to, like Saturn teaches us. Saturn is actually like a message of the spirit coming into our structure and bones and foundation, standing up for rights, absolutely. So I hope that I can have convinced you that we could have, but I wish you, may you have a blessed, peaceful, and prosperous and safe 2025. You can find me on Gmail. I do a lot of the emails rather than phone calls. AgnetaBorstein@gmail.com. Find me on Facebook and my webpage. Take a look at that. And I do thank you for being with me. Many, many blessings. Namaste. Thank you.